Well, if you ask my opinion, I think that's more of a coaching question. So I invited her to join my coaching program, which I'll be opening up again in January. But I do have a waiting list going on now for that because she did have a lot of questions about spirit guides. But it seems that the big thing now is all about spirit guides, and especially with us just scaling out of Halloween. Oh, hey, the YouTube folks are on. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Dr. Tochi. I'm a teacher and spiritual practitioner of over 250,000 folks across all my platforms, my multiple platforms. Okay. And I bring to you about 45 years of spiritual experience. That's what I'm bringing to the table here. So when I answer your questions, you can rest assured that I'm speaking from experience, from practical experience, and not just from reading books and not just from watching TikTok videos or YouTube videos. Okay. That's not to say that there's anything inherently wrong with TikTok videos or YouTube videos, but like the young lady who consulted with me this afternoon, she said, I have seen a lot of people say, and I have conversations that start that way. When people say, I've seen or heard or read a lot of people um, say, okay, so that lets me know the person's on the internet, the person is searching for information. They don't know what's true because some people speak better than others online. Some people are pretty convincing. Please take a moment to give the class a thumbs up or heart. So that lets the algorithm know to inform other people that class has started. Hello, Mystic Mom 28. She says, hello, doctor. My first time visiting. How are you? I am fantastic. I am operating in my inner authority. My emotional and parasympathetic nervous system is well regulated and toned, and I am ready to have fun. How do you like my answer? And how are you? All right. So, Sister Effie, are you at work or do you want to hop on? I can invite you, or you can invite yourself, or want to hop on. Sister Effie is one of our advanced students, and she works hard. So, remember to give the video a thumbs up or heart. Thumbs up. Let me see. Will it do the thing here? There's something my device does sometimes when I do a thumbs up like this, then it will do this bubble thing where it will do these things. Okay. You're working and listening. Okay, fantastic. Also, as you're working and listening, also be learning because here is where we are practicing practical spirituality. Okay, you're at work. Okay, that's fine. So, anywho, if you need to book me for your divinations, consultations, spiritual consultations, or dream interpretation, spiritual practice coaching, please go to my website at tochi.us or drtochi.com. I don't operate outside my website. Okay. And yes, I've had some coffee and some Tylenol. So if I'm like a little bit accelerated, you will know why. Okay. I've had a little bit of caffeine and Tylenol. So, and both of them work very well. Remember that I have two events coming up next Wednesday. Okay. We have the ancestor altar workshop. So, together with me, you will build your own altar, ancestor altar, and then do your first ritual on it. So, if you want to learn firsthand how to construct your own altar, ancestor altar, and to do your first ritual on it, send me an email. I'll send you the information on how to secure your seat. And I've priced it very competitively. It's not expensive at all to do. Okay. And then you can use that information. Um, for other altars that you're interested in putting together. Okay. That is going to be on Wednesday, November the 19th. It's just for one day only for two hours on that one day. 1 p.m. CST. Check your time zone to see what the time equivalent is for you. Okay. We're going to put together our ancestor altar November the 19th. Okay. Okay. I may be hopping on and off occasionally, but I'm on board. Okay. See you on the board. Okay. And then the following day we'll be starting, which is November the 20th, we'll be starting our 7-day fast and cleanse. If you want to learn how to spiritually fast and cleanse correctly, I recommend that you join that retreat. It's going to be an online retreat. All these things I'm talking about, these events are all online, so you can join from wherever you are in the world. So the online fast and cleanse will be for 2 hours each day for 7 days. Okay. And so we'll be fasting, be cleansing, be learning spiritual principles and applying those principles to our life. So, two events for you to register: Ancestor Altar and Spiritual Fast and Cleanse. Spiritual Fast and Cleanse and Ancestor Altar. All right. Is there anything else I need to announce? Yes, members, you're going to have your class with me this Saturday. I'm going to put out the notice on Patreon and also the community board on YouTube. So if you are a member, remember you will have a member video with me. Okay. So it's a benefit of your membership. Make sure you're attending the member videos of the member classes because we discuss things that are deeper than what I discuss for free online. Okay. So make sure you are availing yourself of that. Oh boy. So is this now the time for me to sit back and relax? Let me bring the TikTok folks a little closer. Bring you a little closer as I lay back. Okay. Now the YouTube folks will be seeing me. Oh, woo. Okay, so here we go. So today we're going to be talking about let's get rid of that. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about signs. How do you know that your spirit guides are trying to reach you or trying to communicate with you? And there are many signs that they can send you. Okay, there are many signs that they can send you. One of the signs would be hardship. Okay, if you notice that over the years, your problems and your difficulties and your challenges are increasing. Hi, Auntie Mazuba. Did you get your email? Okay. So I sent you a free dream interpretation. So be sure to check your email for that. So if you notice that your problems are increasing despite your best intentions and your best efforts, that's a possibility that your spirit guides are trying to reach you. They're trying to get your attention. We talked about this 2 days ago. Troubles are a way of getting our attention. There are many of us who would not live upright lives if we didn't have problems. I mean, just seriously speaking, there are many of us who would not. We would just be cruising on pleasure drive if we did not have problems. So our spirit guides kind of know how to get our attention. So they will allow problems to happen to us and they will not help us resolve those problems until we get in touch with them or until we do what we're supposed to do. A young lady I consulted with is having all kinds of hoo-ha going on. We did a divination, and she has been called to spiritual practice. Right now, she's still casting around trying to find whose fault it is that she's having these problems. But the message has to sink in that it is her problem. Because as long as she doesn't answer that call to spiritual practice, her spirit guides are going to allow situations, allow people to bother her. They will allow it, they will permit it, they will not stand in the way of tribulations coming her way. Remember when we told the story of Ayub, when we told the story of Ayub in the Quran, the equivalent of Job in the Bible and in the Tanakh? His God stood aside and allowed his Satan to bother him, to build him spiritually. That was the point of that, to build him spiritually, to make him spiritually stronger. So even though he was doing all the right things, he needed to build some spiritual muscle. So his good had to stand aside. His spirit guide for good had to stand aside and allow the spirit guide for not so good to dominate so that he could build some spiritual muscle. Okay. When you go to the gym, you don't build muscle, you don't condition yourself, you don't condition your body by just sitting and hanging out at the gym. The way you build muscle is by working the muscles. You be lifting weights, you're doing cardio and stressing the muscles. Sometimes you induce micro tears in your muscle fiber, and these muscle tears force the muscle fibers to rebuild stronger. And then you have more muscles, and then you can do more. But you have to go through that pain in order to get the gain. I hope this is making sense for you. Hey, remember to give me the thumbs up, folks. The thumbs up. That lets folks know that class is in session. Hi, Nancy Gonzalez. Okay. Remember to give us a thumbs up of a heart and tap the screen, whatever is required. So that lets the algorithm inform people that we're in class. So that's one of the ways that your spirit guides will communicate to you. It's an indirect method, but it's a surprisingly effective method. It's surprisingly effective because there's so many people who have gone to Jesus or gone to Christ, as they say in the Christian circles, because of problems. If they didn't have those problems, they would never smell the church doors. Okay. And some people discover that, yes, I've been going to church faithfully, or I've been going to the mosque faithfully, or temple, or wherever it is that they've been going faithfully. And then they experience a level of problems that their current level cannot handle. And they may have to leave where they are and go somewhere else to get the solution to those problems. And that leaving, that migration forces spiritual evolution on them. It forces them to think in a different way. It forces them to start thinking about how to be more resourceful. So instead of just going to the church or to the mosque and just depending on the religious leader to do everything for you, praying for you, motivating you, talking to you, instructing you, explaining things to you, you might find out that all of that is no longer working and your problems are persisting. Maybe your problems are getting bigger and bigger. And then you're like, you know what? I need to go somewhere else because this place where I'm at is not working. And so you have a forced evolution. Okay. So, another way that your spirit guides can be speaking to you is through your dreams. Remember, we say that spirit communicates through sensations and not sentences. But we're so used to talking and hearing people talk. We're so used to having verbal diarrheas and people having verbal diarrheas. We're so used to it. Hello, Babdi. We're so used to having a verbal diarrhea that we oftentimes cannot interpret simple symbols, simple signs. In fact, many of us are so unconscious. Many of us are unconscious. Give you an example. I was walking out of the grocery store yesterday, and as I was walking out the door, there was a woman walking directly toward me, and she was on her phone. And I was watching her approach from the parking lot, and she was walking. She wasn't even looking up to see if there were any cars crossing. And so I kept on walking through the exit, and she came and I stood at the exit of the grocery store, the automatic doors, and I stood right there when I saw that she was about to run into me. So I stood right there, and she came right up to me. Now she was, of course, she was shorter than me. I'm a tall person. So she came up to me, and then she was startled, and she goes, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." And I said, "Look where you're going. Pay attention. Pay attention." Many of us go through life like that. If we're not on our phones, we're on something else. We could be on our phones, we could be on drugs, we could be on drink, we could be on food, we could be on sex, we could be on something, and we're not paying attention. It is so amazing to me to see how many of us are so unaware of our surroundings. I was driving and there was a woman in the car beside me, and she's just sitting there and looking forward. And she wasn't even aware that her vehicle was preventing other vehicles from crossing. Aware that her vehicle was preventing other vehicles from crossing. She's just sitting there in her car, sitting there in her bubble, not looking around, not paying attention, not being aware that her position in her car was causing problems for other people in their cars. Not paying attention, didn't care. And so there are many of us who conduct our lives that way. We're just unaware. So when our spirit guides are sending signs and symbols to us, we don't know what it means because we're used to talking, we're used to words. And we can try a little experiment right now. Would you like us to try a little experiment right now? You know, when I start talking, my body heats up. I start getting active. Let's try a little experiment right now. We'll try a little experiment. Let's do this. Look at this. This is a fork. This is a fork. Can you tell me if you were just walking, let's say you were walking along a path, a jogging path, path where people do their exercise. Maybe people walk on that path, or they jog on that path, or they run on that path, or they ride their bicycle on that path. If you saw a fork, if you saw a fork lying in the middle of the path and you were going along that path, what would be the meaning to you? And let's say you had just asked, you had, prior to going on that walk, you had gone to your altar, to your church or mosque or temple or wherever it is that you go to pray, and you said a prayer, you were asking for something, and then you saw something like this, a fork. on your path, as you were walking along that path, how would you interpret the meaning of that with respect to the prayer you made? How would you interpret that? What would you say is the meaning? Let's see if people got their thinking caps on. How would you interpret that? What would you say is the meaning of that if you saw a fork along the way and you had just finished praying that morning, reaching out to your spirit guides or reaching out to whomever, whatever it is you believe in? What would you say the meaning of that would be? Or would you say it has no meaning? It's not relevant. I want to hear from folks. What would you say is the meaning of that? Okay. What would you say is the meaning of that? Good afternoon. Okay, Uba Abdi, I'm not exactly sure what you mean. Do you want to retype that? I'm not sure what that means. What would you say is the meaning, or what would it signify to you to see the fork on your path? You just prayed. What would that mean to you? Okay, Uba Abdi says a blockage. So you see the fork, and the fork represents to you a blockage. Anyone else? Okay, well, thank you for responding to that. Anyone else? What do you think the fork means? If you saw this on the path, this fork, what does it mean? Food? Okay. So you prayed for something and then you saw the fork. One person says a blockage, another person says food. Okay. Any other meanings you might assign to it? Or would it not mean anything? Time to eat, feed the ancestors. Is this in a dream? Okay. So Abitied is getting a little creative here. Time to eat, feed the ancestors. Okay. I like that. Any other possible meanings? I wanted to start paying attention. Again, the challenge many of us have is understanding what these signs and symbols mean. And we don't know if we're supposed to do something or not supposed to do something. Inspire Love says, need to make a decision. Interesting. Why would you say need to make a decision when you see a fork on the path? Okay. Ubabdi says, time to receive. Sometimes there's a fork in the road, literally speaking, no pun intended. That's a good one. There's a fork in the road. No pun intended. Literally speaking, here it is. There's a fork in the road. Okay, you have options. Okay. Do you know that majority of the people who would see this item on their path, that walking path will just walk over it, step on it, and not notice that there's a fork on their path? Majority of the people. And maybe that morning they had just been saying to their spirit guide, Give me, give me this day my daily bread. Give me today that which I will eat. Show me what I should do right now. And we need to understand something. You and I could be going along that path and you see this fork. I prayed my prayer for whatever my issue was. You prayed your prayer for whatever your issue was. Both of us see that fork in the path, but it will have two meanings for us because we have two different issues. It will have two different meanings because you and I have two different issues. But it's one sign. It is one symbol. It is one sign. But you saw it, I saw it, but it means two different things to us. But there are many people who would see this fork along their path and they would keep on walking. They would probably kick it aside. Many people, they would kick it aside. And then they will go, after taking their walk, they will go to somebody and say, I wonder why my spirit guides are not speaking to me. I wonder why God is silent. But they just sent you a sign. But somewhere in their mind, maybe they saw that fork and they're saying, oh, I guess somebody lost their fork from their lunch bag, or maybe, somebody was carrying a whole bunch of forks along the path today. And they would not, in their mind, there isn't that awareness that a symbol could be pointing to the direction of the solution that they're looking for. And many of us are like that. We want God or Jesus or somebody to come and meet us face to face and say, here is the solution to your problem. Oh, you need money. Here is some money. That's what many of us want. We want that spirit guide. Oh, I'm a daughter of Picanorisha. I'm a daughter of Shopwano. I'm a daughter of Shopwano. If Shopwano is were to show up face to face with you, you would run screaming. You would flee for your life. You would run screaming. You would many of us, if we're all the time saying, I want to see my spirit guide. I want to see my day. I want to see Jesus. If Jesus came to you, you would run screaming. If the egregore that of Jesus, the Jesus egregore you're praying to, were to come and meet you, you would run screaming. You wouldn't be able to handle it. You're right. But that's what we want, or what we think we want. Our spirit guides know what we can take and what we cannot take. They know the level of our evolution. They know what we can accept and what we can accept. They know what we can tolerate and what we cannot tolerate. So they communicate to us according to the level of our tolerance. They also understand the level of our intelligence. And so they will communicate to us according to the level of our intelligence. And when I talk about intelligence here, I am not just saying book smarts, because there are some people who are book smart like me, but may not have common sense. There are many people who are book smart, they're intelligent, they're good at their job, good at academics, but they don't have common sense. If you were to put them on the streets, they could not survive the streets. There's no way they would survive on the streets because they don't have street smarts. And so the spirit guides with you already know that. And there are sometimes people think that, oh, with all my academic degrees and all my years of study and all my technical expertise, I whatever sign or symbol I face needs to have this really layered, complex explanation. Spirit don't have time for that. Your spirit guides don't have time to talk about the path of neutrinos when subjected to electromagnetic fields. That's it has nothing to do with the price of beans when you owe your rent, when you owe car note, if you have bills to pay, knowing what is happening with neutrinos, protons, neutrons, electrons is meaningless. And they're not going to come to you in it, and start putting out signs for you to go and study quantum physics. No, they're not. So I may have prayed or did my invocations that morning, and I said, where would be the best place for me to go look for a job? And I see this in the pathway. I see this fork in my pathway. If I am aware of my energy field, and remember we talked about energy fields, if I'm aware of what's happening in my energy field and I'm walking along this path and I see this fork, knowing that I prayed, where can I find a job? This suggests to me a restaurant, an eating establishment, something to do with food. Let's say I prayed about a meal somebody gave me. And I was saying in my prayer, or I was praying about it or asking my spirit guides, and I say, this food, should I eat it or not eat it? And I saw this fork on my path, that will be an indication to me to eat that food, that it was safe for me to eat that food. Okay. Abitian said, or if they're a cook, they can start selling plates. That's right. Person can start selling plates. You're right. But most of us, we will say the prayer. A symbol like this will be lying on our path. We won't see it. We won't see it. We'll kick it to the side. And then we'll be like, oh God, why haven't you answered my prayers? Why can't you send me a sign? But you just kicked the sign. You were on the path. The sign was there. You just kicked it as you kept on going. So, spirit guides will communicate to us in signs and symbols. Remember this if you don't remember anything else. Spirit communicates in sensations, signs, and symbols, and not in sentences. When people run up to me and said, God told me to tell you, or spirits told me to tell you, I know they're about to lay some bullshit on me. Because spirit speaks in signs, symbols, and sensations. Oftentimes, if that fork lying in the path is meant for you, and you're approaching that fork as it's lying on the ground, you will feel something in you. You will feel a shift. You will feel some kind of way as you look at that fork. You will, if it's a symbol meant for you, you will not be afraid. We're not saying you're going to look at the fork and then you suddenly be afraid. But you will look at the fork and something will go off in your psyche. You will feel a change in your body. If that fork lying on the path is not meant for you, you will see it, you will acknowledge it in your consciousness, but you will also acknowledge that it's not for you. I'm not talking about people who don't even see the fork at all. Okay. Another way that our spirit guides, number three, another way that our spirit guides speak to us is through divination. And sometimes we're gifted, we can read the cards for ourselves. Sometimes we can read the cowrie shells for ourselves. Sometimes we can, do whatever divination, pendulum or candle or Bible or coins, we can do it for ourselves. Gallium says, sometimes I doubt myself and reject the sign. That's why you're in trouble. Their job is to send you the sign, not to force you to believe the sign. If it's my job to give you this fork, I'm not going to force it on you. I'll be like, here you are. Here you are. Now it's up to you to say I take it or I don't take it. But I'm not going to stand there and try to force it on you. Now I'm not going to stay there. I'm too busy. Same thing with your spirit guides. So going back to divination, some people can do divinations for themselves and some people cannot. They need to go to somebody else because, they don't have the skills. But there's a lot to be said about divinations as a source of messages from spirit. Personally, I like using divinations to confirm the sign, symbol, or sensation that spirit has already sent me. Okay. I like using divination to confirm. So, Gallium says, sometimes I doubt myself and reject the sign. Have you considered, if you see the sign, getting a divination to confirm, verify, or explain the sign? That is why people get dream interpretations. I could have a dream about something. My spirit, my own spirit, I'm not talking about a spirit guide. We are all spirits. We have spirit. My own spirit already knows the meaning of that dream. But just like you said, I might be like, well, I'm a highly intelligent person. And in my dream, I saw a fork. A fork could mean rise up and eat. A fork could mean go and eat. A fork could mean, okay, pardon me, I'm a little bit distracted. There's somebody driving in circles in front of the house, and I'm like, okay. Do we need to write down your license plate number? So, a fork could mean rise up and eat. A fork could mean it is safe for you to eat. A fork could mean it is connected to food. What you need to do is connected to food. A fork in my dream could mean there's a fork in the path coming. You will be presented with options. So I'm thinking about these things and I'm saying to myself, okay, because I'm overthinking, over analyzing, I start getting anxious. And many of us, we subject ourselves to analysis paralysis. Okay, there could be so many meanings to seeing this fork. Let me get a divination. I think it means start a food business, but I might be wrong. It could mean something else. But this is what I think it means. I'm not going to disregard the sign. I'm not going to ignore the sign. I'm not going to pretend like the sign wasn't sent because many of us are very good at that. I'm just going to do la 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 la. I didn't see anything. I didn't see anything. Sometimes some of us will see the sign, but it's not the sign we want. And so we go la 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 because it's not the sign we want. Sometimes it's not the sign we want. And so we go for a divination or we do a divination. And there are different schools of thoughts when it comes to divination to find out what your spirit guides are trying to say to you, or doing a divination to find out what you should do. There are some spiritual traditions that say you should not do a divination for yourself. You should get someone to do a divination from you. And the reason why they say that is because they are aware of a bias. If you are the subject of the divination, you might be inclined to interpret the divination according to your bias. So if you already feel that things are not going your way, or things will not go your way, or things are not going to be favorable to you, you can do a divination to confirm your bias. If you already think things are going to go your way, or you have a strong desire for something, you could interpret your divination with that bias too. An example is this. Let's say you have women, I'm going to use as an example. Okay. Let's say you have a woman who is lusting after a man, or she's thirsty for a man, or she is desperate to get a man, anything with a PP. Okay. And let's say she meets some guy and he smiles at her, say some nice things to her, compliments her, maybe buys her a coffee or buys her a meal. She may go and do a divination by herself to confirm that this is the man she's been waiting for. So let's go down this rabbit hole a little bit. So let's assume I'm that woman. I've been out here praying and invoking and doing rituals and offerings and all kinds of things. Oh God, I want a man. Yamaya, I need a man. Zerli, I need a man. Hecate, Diana, Athena. I'm calling on all these goddesses and female deities and energies. I need a man. Oshun, give me my man. Mami Wata, give me my man. I need a man. I gotta have a man. And then I go to Starbucks. And so I go to Starbucks. I got my lashes on. I got my hair on. I got my nails on. I'm smelling nice. Because in my mind, I believe the TikTok influencers who have said, always be dressed and ready so that you don't have to get ready. Always put your best face forward because you never know who you'll meet at Starbucks. So I'm dressed to the nines at 7 a.m. and I've already done a full face of makeup and I'm going to Starbucks because who knows? I might meet somebody there. So I go to Starbucks with my full mask on, full regalia, and I'm standing there in line, and there happens to be a man in front of me who believes in the pay it what's that term? Is it pay it backward thing? Remember there was this thing that was trending at some time. You pay for your meal or pay for your drink and pay for the person behind you. So let's say we have a man there, good looking person, healthy looking, okay, nothing drooping, well dressed, smelling nice, smelling heavenly. I'm standing right behind him. And if I just lean forward so much like so, I can inhale him. I can inhale the maleness of him. And then he, you know, I get by the time it's my turn to get to the register, the cashier says, "Oh, your drink's already paid for." So I turn around and go to the other end of the counter. You know how it is at Starbucks. You place your order and then you wait at the other end of the counter. So I run to the other end of oh sir, thank you so much. You're such a godsend. And as I'm thanking him, I'm also giving him a once over and a twos over and a threes over. And he looks good. So in my mind, being mindful of what I prayed that morning, I'm saying to myself, is he the one? Could he be the one? He looks like the one. I'm sure he's the one. Could he be the one? I think he's the one. And this guy was just trying to be kind. And so I tried to engage him in conversation. Do you come to this Starbucks often? And he goes, yeah, I come every morning before I go to work. So I saved that information in my head. He comes here every morning before he goes to work. Maybe I introduce myself if I'm that bold and I get his name. And maybe he says his name is Peter. So now he takes his coffee and says, have a great day. I say, you too. And I take my coffee and I promptly run home. And I take out my deck of cards and I start shuffling. Or maybe I get out my cowrie shells. Tell me, is Peter the one? And now, wait for this. Maybe I'm pulling these cards and I pull a card that is the coffin. If you're familiar with oracle cards or even tarot cards, remember the card called the death card. or the coffin card. If you're familiar with Kipper cards, it's usually a coffin or funeral card. Or, if you're doing the old fashioned tarot cards, you get the death card. And if you get the death card, it has Baphomet on an altar with holding this chain, and one chain is binding a man, and the other chain is binding a woman. Now, remember that I'm thirsty for a man. I've been desperate. I've been looking. I've been praying. I've been doing rituals and offerings. I've been doing all kinds of things. And I see this. No, okay, the card I just described is not the death card. Pardon me. That's a devil card. Pardon me. The death card on the Rider Waite cards, I believe, is the one with the skeleton and the scythe, the sickle. Pardon me, I made a mistake there. So I pull, or I think there's also one with multiple graves and coffins and things of that nature. Okay. And then you see the flag. All right. So I pull that card, but because I am desperate for Peter, I am desperate to justify my belief that Peter is for me. I will say death means a change. It means a transformation. Once Now that I met him, my life is about to be transformed. Oh, a death card? I will soon rise from the dead. I will be resurrecting from single spinsterhood into a conjugal marital bliss. So I will start interpreting that card as meaning the phoenix is rising from the ashes, eternal life. We do this. We are capable, and we frequently will make interpretations that suit our biases. But if we were to go to someone else who is not connected to me, not connected to Peter, who is independently objective to the event, and say, do a divination for me, and the person pulls a death card or pulls a coffin card, the person would now turn to us and say, it's a no go. This will end in premium tears. If you decide to pursue this Peter, it will not end well. You will sustain losses that you will not recover from. But that's not what I want to hear. And this is the reason why, ladies and gentlemen, this is the reason why people will come to me for divinations, and when I tell them this is what the divination says, they will say, no, but I went to another diviner and she told me something different. Or like one who said to me, I've been to four other people. Some were psychics and some were mediums, and they told me that this is what it is. You are the only one who's different. And I said to her, so what would you like me to do? And she said, are you sure of what you're doing? I said, what would you like me to do at this point? I've interpreted the divination. You said four other people told you differently. What would you like me to do? And most times people get stumped there. because they know how ridiculous it sounds for them to say, "Well, I want you to change what you just said." They won't tell you that. All you're going to hear is, "But someone else said," and I'll keep on repeating. So what do you want me to do about that? What would you like me to do right now? And then the next thing you hear the person say is, "Okay, okay, if your divination is saying that Peter and I can't be together, that Peter is not the right person for me, is there a ritual that I can do or you can do for me so that Peter and I can be together?" Because we want what we want. So here you have the person's spiritual crew saying, "You and Peter are not an item." The divination is saying so. But we're saying, "Nah, that's not what I want. That's not what I want to hear. That's not what I'm interested in. I want what I want, what I want. I want." And then that's when the conflict starts with the diviner. Maybe you were their favorite spiritual teacher and coach and practitioner before that divination. And after that divination, they hate you. You become the evil person. They'll start saying, "Yeah, she wasted my time. She was talking nonsense." So, yes, your spiritual crew, your spirit guides will speak to you through divination. But you have to be realistic as to whether you should do the divination or somebody else should do the divination. And if you find out that you're too emotionally vested in the results of that divination, it is probably better that you get someone else to do that divination for you. Someone who is not connected to your situation. Okay, feel me? There are some divinations we can do by ourselves. For instance, I have a choice of two schools to attend. Which one would be a good one for me? Or I have a choice of five schools to attend. Which one would be the best one for me? You throw down your five cards, and it will tell you. Then you can start making decisions there. The one that the divination is showing you, can you afford it? You may not like it, but it's one that your spirit guides are saying is best for you, considering your circumstances. Okay. Another way that your spirit guides will speak to you is through synchronicities. Something happening just at the right moment, at the right time, in the right way, with the right people. And some people describe that as a flow. It's a flow. It just flows. There's no resistance. It just flows. And in the flow, let me clarify what I mean by that, because there are sometimes people will be doing things And they say, "Oh, yeah, it was easy to do. I was in the flow." And they know darn well they were no any kind of flow doing what they were doing. There was no flow. Okay. They were working hard, making it happen. Being in the flow when you're doing something or experiencing something in the flow, how do I describe it? You have no sense of time. It is as if time doesn't exist. And if someone were to come and ask you, how long do you think you have spent doing this thing? Or how long do you think this thing has been going on? You'll be saying, oh, probably 10, 20 minutes. And you look at the clock and it's been going on for 5 hours. And you had no sense of that time, that it was, you were at it for 5 hours. It felt like 20, 30 minutes because you were in the flow. Flow. And everything is falling into place at the right time. So let's use our Peter in the Starbucks example again. Let's say, for instance, I've said my prayers. I need a man, like I need a cigarette. And I had to throw in that joke there. Okay. And so I go to the Starbucks. I have my full regalia on, the hair is on, the nails are on, the lashes are on, the face shield, aka makeup is on. I smell nice, I smell good, I look good. I have my faja. So my faja is on and my waist is 18 inches. You know, that's never going to happen. But anywho, so I have my faja on and everything. And I go to Starbucks and I'm standing in line behind Peter. I'm looking at the back of his head and the back of his body. He smells good, looks good. I'm wonder what this guy looks like. I can't see his face and I don't want to be rude and just step around and go start looking at his face. Though some people are bold that way. And then maybe he goes up to the register and pays for his coffee and he does the pay it backward thing. So by the time I get to the counter, the barista tells me, "Oh, your coffee's paid for." And so he's at the other end of the counter, maybe scrolling on his phone, and I go over there to thank him. Okay. So I'm over there and I see him and I say, "Sir, I my name is Petra, and I want to thank you for paying for my coffee. The barista told me that you just paid for my coffee." And he says, "Oh, your name is Petra? Well, guess what? You and I have the same name. My name is Peter. Peter and Petra mean the same thing." I said, "Oh, wow, what a coincidence." Now, inside my mind, I'm looking at him and I'm going, OMG, what a hunk of goodness. I wish he were mine, but I'm not going to force nothing. And then maybe Peter starts saying, "Well, thank you. Do you know you're the first person I have ever bought a drink for behind me who has ever come and introduced themselves? Most people just say thank you and keep on moving, but you're the first person to actually come and say thank you and introduce yourself." And I said, "Well, okay, well, I'm glad I'm your first." And then Peter says, "Do you come here in the morning for Starbucks? You usually come here." "I usually do." And then I might be like, yeah, you know, when the spirit moves me, I come. And he might say, okay, see you here tomorrow morning. Are you going to be here tomorrow morning? I would love to show you this new drink that I've tried. If you don't mind, I'm not trying to force you to do anything or trying to pressurize you, but there's this drink I would like to get for you tomorrow, and I would like to get your opinion on it. And I said, okay, see you tomorrow, Peter. I say, see you tomorrow, Petra. Then I run home. Then I do a divination. And the divination is pull up a card and maybe it has a feather. And I'm asking myself, okay, I pulled a card. Is a feather. What does a feather mean? Could it be the symbol of Ma'at, which is a symbol of truth? Is he the truth? Could a feather mean that this will be just a light and easy casual relationship? And so I start talking to my spiritual crew. Clarify for me whether I should start emotionally vesting in this Peter. Is he the one, or should we await another? You know, the same way the disciples or some people ran up to Jesus and said, are you the Messiah we're waiting for? Or is there another one coming? So I can go to my spiritual crew, my spirit guides, and I call on them by name if I have the name of my spirit guides. And I say, is Peter the one, or should I be waiting for another? And as I'm sitting there waiting for an answer, I start getting a sensation in my body. But that sensation I'm getting in my body is not a sensation of fear, worry, or anxiety. I start feeling a very deep calm come over my body. That is my spirit guide responding to me. I start feeling a strong sense of calm. And there are certain parts of the body, and we talk about this in the member classes, about the parts of the body where we feel certain sensations and what those sensations mean. We had a retreat more than 3 weeks ago where we talked about that too. What does, if you feel the sensation here, what does it mean? If you feel it here, what does it mean? If you feel it here, what does it mean? If you feel it down here, what does it mean? And then I say, uh-huh. And just to be doubly sure, I might go get a divination with someone else and see if their divination results will triangulate with the other two things I've done, which is my own self divination and also the sensation that I felt. Because your spirit guides will also speak to you in sensations. And this is the reason why you go to somewhere dark at night and you can start feeling your head expand, or you start feeling goose pimples, or goosebumps, bumples. I've invented a new word, bumples. Okay. You start feeling the bumples all over your body because you're not the only one there. Sometimes you might feel the pressure change, or you might feel a change in your reality. There are some people who are so sensitive, if they are in the same space or energy field with a spirit guide or some spirit guides, they will start noticing the fabric of the reality they're in changing. Sometimes they will start seeing things like heat waves, or they will start seeing shifting. And it's not going to be little heat waves or little shifting. It's going to be very perceptible shifting of the reality. And it's not dizziness. They're not dizzy. It's just as they're looking, it's just like you're in a movie, and you know how like movies want to show you the dream state, or they want to show you that an awareness is shifting, and they will start blurring or waving, making these waves in the movie. There are some people who see that, and they'll say, okay, I'm not here by myself. Now, lastly, and I'm aware that there are hundreds of ways that spirit guides can speak to, but I just, wanted to do this class in a way that we can start, asking more questions around this. There are some people whose spirit guides will speak to them through children and through animals. There are some people who will be praying about something, doing something, trying to reach an outcome. Maybe they did an offering or a ritual, and they're sitting there wondering, have I done the right thing? Have I done the right thing? And a child will come out of nowhere and say something that makes you stop and say, hey, something heard my prayer. How many times have you let that man go or let that woman go? And the child in the family will come to you and say, you should have left him a long time ago. Or say, or the child will say to you, thank you for the likes, future billionaire. And the person will say to you, or the child will say to you, God was waiting for you to leave that man alone. Or the child will say to you, you needed your freedom. And you will turn to the child and say, what did you say? And the child goes back to playing. The child goes back to doing what they're doing. It's just like the child came to you, delivered the message, and then went about its business. Sometimes the child may be able to explain, might say, Daddy, God wanted you to leave that woman. She was not the right person for you. And you're sitting there going, how did this child know that? It's because the spirit guide is using that child to speak to. Sometimes it's your spiritual crew, because they know that you're finding it hard to hear them. They will speak to that child's spiritual crew to speak to the child to speak to you, because they know that if that child speaks to you, you will listen and you will believe. And this is the reason why, if you have children in the house, especially very young children under the age of 6, and they're saying certain things, don't be quick to hush them. Don't be quick to shut them down. Don't be quick to say, oh, you're talking nonsense. Don't be quick to shut children down, because children are closest to spirit. Sometimes children can even act as divination tools. Did you know? And I don't mean it in a bad way. Do you know there's sometimes you can get a little child and you will point at somebody, point to something, and you say to that child, "Is this person good for me?" And the child, the first thing the child says, without you influencing the child, is usually the truth. Hello, love free. Thank you for the heart me. Did you know that? But most of us, remember the example I gave with the Peter. Let's say I've set my heart on Peter. Oh, Peter is a man for me. Peter is the only man for me. Peter, if I can't have Peter, then, what am I living for? And then I go get my child or somebody's child and I say, look at Peter. Do you think he's the right person for me? And the child, without hesitation, says no. What will most of us as adults do? Shut up. You don't know what you're saying. You don't know what you're talking about. And we don't realize that that child spoke from spirit. The first thing that that child said was speaking from spirit. And we start arguing with the child. We start telling the child to shut up. We tell the child to leave. We tell the child you're foolish. We tell the child all kinds of things because we want that child to change what he or she said. Thank you, thank you, thank you for the gifts, love three. Oh my goodness. Lighting up my TikTok gallery, lighting it up like a Christmas tree, and it's not yet Christmas. Thank you so much. Appreciate you. Okay. But children can be, that's why I say children can be a great source of divination. If you are willing to humble yourself and listen to the child. Okay. Uba Abdi says, you are so right. My uncle made me kiss his visa documents when I was 3, and he got the visa. That is why we do Sadak for children. This is why we do Sadak. And if you're not familiar with Sadak, I encourage you to watch my free video on YouTube. It's an old video, how to do Sadak. It's a Quranic spiritual principle. It's a Quranic Arabic custom. It's like Thanksgiving, but you feed. You are the one doing the feeding. You're the one doing the feeding. You're the one that puts the things together, and you call the children and you say, I want to make a feast for the children. There was a time I got into a fight with one of my uncles who's a spiritual practitioner because I asked him to do a sadak. Some people call it a saraka. Some people call it a sadaka. Okay. All right. And I told him, I want you to do a sadak for children. I want you to cook food. Here's the kind of food you will cook. Here are the little non-alcoholic drinks you'll get for the kids. The little pouch juices and things of that nature. And, make sure there's some protein in there. And he said, okay. So Guess what happened? This man, my uncle, is an older man. He took all that money I sent him and entertained his fellow men. So they cooked some food, bought beer, bought beverages, and brought all the men to come and sit and eat and drink. And it was so egregious that the women in the household and the women around were not even part of that main circle of men. The women were on the outskirts of that. They were on the sidelines, even though it was the women who cooked the food. And so he had these men sit together and they were eating and drinking. And he said, "Oh, it's my niece. She's an American. And she just wants to do a Thanksgiving and appreciate y'all." And the women were sitting on the outskirts of this thing, eating the leftovers. So his son, one of his sons, may he rest in peace, called me, or I called him. And I said, "I sent money to your father to do a sadak for me for the children. How did it go?" And the son said, "There were no children there. It was just grown men drinking beer, tearing into fried chicken and rice and eating all kinds of things. And there were a handful of women there just serving them." And I said to him, "Wait a minute. How about the children?" And he said, "Oh, after the men were done eating and drinking, his father bought some crackers, some biscuits, and gave them to the children and told them to take and to leave. And the children, because the children were standing, that there were a group of children standing and watching what was going on, and they were saying, 'And where's ours? Where's our food? Where's our drink? Where's ours?'" And I was very unhappy. And I'm putting it mildly. I was very, very unhappy. And the fact that this man was a spiritual practitioner himself, he knew the implications of not giving to God that which was God and to Caesar that which belonged to Caesar. He knew the implications. And even if he pretended like he didn't know the implications, he and his male friends were eating and drinking, he hawing, and the children were on the sidelines saying, "Where is our food? Where is our drink?" That was the voice of spirit guides saying, "Where is what is ours? Where is it?" Because what y'all are eating and drinking is ours. And in order to pacify them, he just gave them crackers and shooed them away. I was not happy. And I'm saying that very mildly. So his son, who told me this, said, "You know what? I'm going to make it right. I'm going to bring my own money and I'm going to make it right." And he brought out his own money and did that sadak and invited the children, and their whole premises was overrun with children. He gave them food, he gave them drinks, and he gave them cash. He gave them money. And the children, and he made a video, the children started praying for me. They were making invocations for me. They were singing and dancing and clapping. That was the spirit guides. Love 3 says, "Do something bad happen?" It did happen to my uncle. It did. He's been losing his children, including that son who made things right. He's been losing his grown children. He has been losing his grown children. Whenever his children will grow and approach adulthood, oh, phew, and he, by the time they get to an age where he can start reaping good benefits from them, phew, they get taken out by disease, some strange illness. And he's and this son who fixed things just died last year. No, was it that last year or this year? This year, at the age of what, 40, 45, 42. And he lived long. The other ones died young. Many of them were dying in their 20s. So I don't even know how many kids he got left. Probably a couple. And so for me, it was important for me to speak up and say, "This is not what I asked you to do. This is not what I want. This is not." And I let that my uncle know. I said, "This is not what I asked you to do. What I asked you to do was to feed the children. Feed the children. That's what I asked you to do." Because me as a spiritual practitioner, I knew why I was doing that sadak. There's a reason why we do that kind of sadak or saraka or saraka, however you call it. There's a reason why we do it, and there's a reason why we feed the children. We give them gifts, we give them food, we give them money. There's a reason why we do it. It's for the spirit guides. Children are closest to spirit. Children are often the voice of spirit. But when you had him take that which was meant for the children and give it to his cronies and his friends, I had to rebuke him. And that was the last time I ever asked him to do um, the sadak for me for children. And if you can do a sadak for children, I will encourage you to do that. It will bring great blessings on you. It will bring great blessings to you. If you can do sadak for children, if you can't throw a party or a feast for the children, go give things to the motherless babies, go to the orphanages, and go give. And if it is possible for those children to pray for you, their prayers will work wonders in your life. Why? Because children are closest to spirit. If they can pray for you, if they can wish you well, you would have gotten a very great blessing. That's why we do that with the children. This is not to say that if you have gifts or money or things of that nature to give indigent people that you shouldn't. You should. You can and you should. But there's something special, spiritually special about doing things for children, especially children who are in less fortunate circumstances, especially indigent children, especially feeding a poor child, feeding the motherless, feeding the fatherless, feeding the orphans, even more than the widows or the widowers. Though there's a benefit, there's a spiritual benefit to that. But not, remember, here in today's class, we're talking about hearing from, knowing how your spirit guides speak to you. Because if you're doing those things for those children, and those children are there praying for you, and they're happy, and they're dancing, and they're singing, that's response from spirit guides. That's a response from your spirit crew, their spirit crews. It's real-time feedback. And what's the other side of the coin? Let's say you go there, you see these less fortunate children, and you've bought food for them or cooked food for them, given them something to drink, given them gifts, and so on and so forth, and they're not responding. That's a problem. Understand that that's a problem. And I'm not talking about going to give things to children who have too much. I'm not talking about giving foods to children who are overfed. I am not talking about doing things for children who have other people doing for them. If you go to do things for children who are less fortunate, and those children don't respond and they don't say anything, there is a problem. Take it from me that there is a problem. There is a problem. And you need to understand, are the children being restrained from responding to your largesse? Or are they just basically saying, we reject what you're giving us? Because there are sometimes you have people who are not so nice people, and they try to make nice and try to get some spiritual brownie points, and they will go and feed less fortunate children because they want to get the spiritual benefit of that. And sometimes they'll be feeding those children, and the children won't say anything. And they will go to the kids and say, "Won't you say thank you?" And the child will say thank you grudgingly. Child's not laughing, child's not smiling, they're not singing, they're not dancing, they're not praying. You have to tell them to everything, single thing they have to do for you. You're there saying, "Won't you pray for me? Won't you dance for me? Won't you sing for me? Won't you say thank you?" There's a problem. Thank you for the like, Stacy. Another way that your spirit guides will speak to you, I know I said that that one was the last one, but there was another one I just remembered. Thank you for the roses, Stacy. Appreciate you. Okay. Like you said, children are close to spirit, close to sorted, so they smell phony. Of course. Children are like pets. I'm not talking about wild animals per se, but pets. Animals can smear fear and animals can smear wickedness. They can smell wickedness. Animals can smell fear and they can smell wickedness. Now, I know that there's some people who have badly behaved pets. And so we're not talking about badly behaved pets. If you have a pet that's normally calm, friendly, and then a certain person comes and it's going wild, you need to pay attention. I don't know if some of you saw a content creator on TikTok. I haven't seen his videos recently, but I think he's from Nigeria. And he and his wife had a baby girl, and they were being visited by birds every day. Has any of you seen this guy's TikTok? I forget the handle. Is it gifted or something? And every day, birds will fly into the room where this baby, this infant, will be lying down. Sometimes the birds will perch and stay on the child. Some of the birds. And then it got to a point where birds would come to this child in the room. He's on TikTok. I think he's called Gifted or Gifted Angel or something. This guy is on TikTok. If they put like a pink outfit on the child, the birds coming will have pink feathers. And he was documenting this. And he was like, me and what? And sometimes they will try to chase the birds out of the room, and the birds will fly around and keep flying around, and they will, perch in the window, or perch on a shelf, or perch somewhere. Anytime that guy, they will get their kid bathed and fed and just lay her down on the bed. These birds will come in from outside. They will fly as long as they can come through the window or the door. The birds will come in and they will go, some of them will just perch on the child and just sit there. Or some will come and stay on the bed with her. Little birds. And the colors of the birds would match the girl's outfit. He's on TikTok. And he was there writing, does anybody know the meaning of this? And people were writing all kinds of things. She's a bird girl. She's favorite of the gods. She's a prophetess. She's a miracle healer. She's a practitioner. She's a this. She's a that. She's a this. She's a that. And there was one video he made of what was going on with the daughter. And that child is, as of the last time I saw the video, I think the child was about 6 months old. And that was a couple of months ago. And there was a video he made where they lay the child on the bed, and he and his wife just decided to sit down and observe what was going on. They were like, no, we're not going to chase the birds out at this point. We're just going to sit here and observe what's going on. And within minutes, the room had like about five, six, seven, eight, nine birds. I don't remember the exact handle on TikTok, but I'm thinking if you check on TikTok something like um girl, maybe do Nigerian baby and bird, something like that. You should pull up their handle. So he was saying one day he and his wife just decided to sit down and watch what was going on. And these birds would come, and it wasn't like they were pecking at the child or anything. They would fly into the room and stay on the mattress with the kid and just stay there. They would just stay there. They weren't singing, they weren't flying around, making a racket, they weren't doing anything. So they would just sit there. They just sit with the child. And if you read the comment sections, you'll see people like, oh, this is witchcraft or blah, blah, blah. A lot of people just having verbal diarrhea. They have no idea what is going on. But it's unusual, isn't it? And that in itself is communication from spirit guides. That in itself is communication from spirit guides. And I'm willing to say that there is a deity in that village where they live whose animal totem is birds, those birds, or the familiar of that deity are those birds. That the birds are its messengers. And this child is connected to that deity. But they didn't hire me to research that, so I didn't research it. Okay. And so, excuse me, kudos to the mother and the father. They're paying attention to what's going on. Their awareness is there. But there are some parents, especially here in the Western world, who will see that kind of thing, and they will go and call um, animal exterminators, or they will go call the Animal Humane Society and say, "Come and catch all these birds. We're having a bird infestation." And they would install nets and everything, and they'll be doing all kinds of things to kill the birds or cast the birds out and stuff in this part of the world. They would see it as a problem, probably sign up for some therapy. You know what I'm saying? Probably call the pastor to come in and cast out the demon of birds from their home. Because many of us don't know how to interpret signs and symbols. Now, the other one I wanted to mention, another way that our spirits guides communicate to us is during offering time when we make offerings to our spirit guides. Okay. If you make an offering, how simply can I put this? If you're making an offering to your spirit guides or your spiritual crew, okay, and those offerings are returned to you, those offerings have been rejected. There are no ands, ifs, or buts about that. I repeat, if you make an offering to your spirit guides or to a spirit guide, a deity, a god, a goddess, whatever it is that you're working with. And that offering is returned to you. Just realize that your offering has been rejected. If it disappears from view, okay? If it disappears from view or is left undisturbed, it has been accepted. Now, being undisturbed could also mean that it's been ignored, not necessarily rejected, but more often than not, what we have to decipher is whether it's been accepted or rejected. Some offerings can be abandoned or rejected if they're being offered to the wrong spiritual entity or spirit guide. Your offering could be rejected if you are praying for the wrong thing or if you are doing what you're not supposed to do. Let's say, for example, and I'm just using this as an example. Let's say, for an example, that you are doing a ritual against somebody who didn't do something to you, innocent person, and that person has a very strong spiritual crew, and the person is spiritually strong, okay? And the person didn't do anything to you, but you, out of the abundance of your own wickedness, mm, hard hardness of heart, or that you are like, I want to show that I want to, there's some people who have ego like that. I want to show this person that I have power. I want to show this person that I can do this and do that. I want to show a person that I'm spiritually powerful. So people have strange reasons why they do what they do. Okay. So let's say you are trying to do something against somebody who didn't do anything to you, and that person is spiritually strong. Okay. And your spiritual crew knows that you will get in trouble for doing this. You could put out an offering as part of your ritual and it will get returned to you. That's your spiritual crew's spirit guides talking to you. That's a sign for you. Or let's say, for instance, you're putting it out and it gets returned to you because that person's spiritual crew intercepted that offering and sent it right back to you. Or there's some people who are so spiritually strong. Let's say, for instance, let me use a more concrete example to so that you understand what I'm saying. Let's say a person is um, an initiate of Ogun. Okay, most people know of the Orisha called Ogun, so I'm going to use Ogun as an example. Let's say a person is an initiate of Ogun, or let me put it this way. Let's say, let me pick somebody. Let's say Oba Abdi is an initiate of Ogun, but I don't like Oba Abdi. I don't like Oba Abdi. I don't. And I'm looking for ways to deal with Oba Abdi. And in my infinite wisdom, I say, you know what? I'm going to do a ritual to cause problems for Ubabdi. And I'm beating my chest and I'm saying, I'm a powerful spiritual practitioner. I want to deal with Ubabdi. So what do? I go and put together a ritual to Ogun. that I know that Ubabdi is an initiate to. And I say, and I bring an offering, and I say, Ogun, I want you to turn against Ubabdi. I want you to turn against Ubabdi. Okay. Now, as long as Ubabdi is in good terms with Ogun, and Ubabdi has not done anything to me, has not offended me, is innocent, I'm just acting out of my own ego. Okay. That offering will be returned to me. It will be rejected. And if I am a spiritual practitioner worth my salt, I should be able to see that sign that that offering I made to Ogun against Ubabdi was rejected. And therefore, my whole ritual against Ubabdi was null and void. You get it? There are times we go to make offerings, and those offerings, and I'm going to teach more about this in the member class, those offerings get returned to us immediately. We send it out and it comes right back. We put it out, and that offering is brought back right to our feet. And usually, I will tell the person involved in the ritual, I will say, your offering was not accepted. So that's a problem, and that problem needs to be addressed. And then at that moment, we try to address it because that is a communication from spirit guides, especially if we're working with specific spirit guides. If I am the one doing a ritual on my own behalf and my ritual gets returned to me, I have to find out immediately what is wrong and address it and fix it. I will not leave there until that issue is addressed. And there are sometimes I'm with people, we're out there doing our ritual, and the person says, "Oh well, I guess, I guess they didn't want my offering. I guess I'll go home now." And they don't realize it's a message. They don't realize it's a message. And they think, "Oh, okay, if you don't want it, I'll leave it." And they don't realize that that's a problem and it's a message. What if you do a thankful offering of food and you see a homeless man eating it? Do it work? Of course. Did you give it to the man, or you put it out and a homeless man just went and took it? If you put it out, you didn't give it to the homeless man. It was part of your ritual, and you put out that food and the homeless person eats it. It's actually a good sign. Now, hopefully you don't have maggots and ish running through the the offering. Oh my God. Okay. But it's a good sign. It's a good sign. Okay, the homeless took it. Yeah, it's a good sign. That means the offering is accepted. Miss Nye Smith, can you give an example of what you mean by returned? I just did. It's brought back to you. And that is a strong signal. That's a very strong message when that happens. That's a very strong message when that happens. And there are sometimes you will have religious leaders, and note I'm being very precise, religious leaders who don't know this. And they go put out offerings and they tell you, okay, I'm going to make an offering to break the yoke of a demon or break the yoke of Satan or break the yoke of a devil. Like we have some Pentecostal uh, um, pastors and things of that nature who co-opt traditional religious practices into their Pentecostal Christianity. Okay. And so they'll be like, oh, okay, I'm going to go make this offering out there. And once I make it, I'm going to use it to break the yoke, whatever Christian languaging that they're using. But because they are not trained, they don't know the meaning of what they're seeing when they go put that thing out there. And sometimes they create more problems than solve the problems when they do that. Sometimes you have these religious leaders who will tell you, oh, yeah, I'm spiritually powerful. I'm covered by the blood. I'm covered by the who. I'm covered by the ha. And they're like, I'm going to go. Oh, I see someone put an offering out there. I'm going to go interfere with it. And they get into trouble for that. So the fact that somebody's hollering and screaming and shouting and carrying on doesn't necessarily mean that the person is spiritually strong. There are a lot of people out in these streets hollering and shouting and carrying on, and they don't have even one iota of spiritual power. They don't. They're not spiritually strong at all. Okay. And say that so they go out there in public and get into trouble and they wonder why they're in trouble. Because that first of all, they don't understand the signs and symbols from spirit guides. They have no idea what it means. They just think that, oh, if I take my Bible and I thump my Bible on top of it, it's a done deal. But even your Jesus said, give unto God that which is God, and give unto Caesar that which is Caesar's. So give unto your God what you worship, what it requires, and give unto the rulers of the land what they require. And each has its own language. Okay, so now I take questions. We've been at this for 2 hours. Okay, so what questions do you have about this topic? Not about your personal problems, but this topic. And as a reminder, our topic is the ways. How will you know your spirit guides are speaking to you? So, what questions do you have about this topic? And while I'm waiting for questions, you're welcome, Love 3. And while I'm waiting for questions, a quick reminder we do have the Ancestor Altar Workshop coming up on Wednesday next week. Send me an email for more information. It's very inexpensively priced. So send me an email and we will get that out to you. It's going to be for one day, 2 hours on one day, 2 hours on Wednesday, the 19th. Ancestor altar building, and we'll do a ritual on it. So you get to do a real ritual on the altar that you've put together for your ancestors. And then the following day, November the 20th, which is a Thursday, we will be starting a 7-day fast and cleanse. 7-day fast and cleanse. Okay. Spiritual fast and cleanse. That will be a retreat, and all these things will be conducted online. So you can do them from the comfort of your own home. Okay. Okay, question. We have a question. A couple of questions. Do orbs mean my spirit guides are speaking to me? I've been seeing a purple one. I saw it today after meditation. They may be. There are some spiritual authorities who say that orbs, seeing orbs, is a sign of the presence of spirit guides. So if you're seeing the orbs, it means that they're right there with you. Yeah. Uba Abdi. What language or signal they make? We have many interface. I'm not sure I understand your question. Obabdi, can you rephrase that question? I'm not sure I understand it. What language or signal they make? We have many interface. I don't understand what you mean by that. And Kaiga, do all animals give spiritual messages apart from birds you've talked about? Yeah, pretty much. And that's why I said pets. Pets. Okay. So I'm not talking about going into the savannah and going there to intercept a lion, a hungry lion, and saying to the hungry lion, "Hey, do you have a spiritual message for me? Dr. Tochi said that you are an animal and you can tell me something I need to know." See, Ubabi, I don't understand the question. What do you mean, what language or signal they make? Like, I don't even know what that means. I'm not sure what your question is. That's not clear. Okay. Anyone have questions about today's topic? It's kind of getting dark in here. It's getting dark in here. I'm going to have a salad, a healthy green salad. There's one of my old friends. He made this amazing green salad. Like, I want to call it an emerald green salad. Almost everything in that salad was emerald green, and it was so nice and so healthy. So that has been my thing to reproduce that. Okay, you're saying, um, oh, thank you. That's comforting. Yeah. So, but the challenge is not just knowing that your spirit guides are there. The, okay, so what do you do? So are we just going to be like peekaboo? Now you see me, now you don't. What you do with your spirit guides is also important. So if they're there with you and they're letting you know that they're there, you need the next stage is okay, what next? Is there something they're trying to let you know? Or is there something you need to be letting them know? There has to be a continuation along that trajectory. Okay. So any other questions about today's topic? Is everybody fully educated? On TikTok, is there anyone on TikTok who wants to come up and ask their question? Because I can do that apparently on TikTok. I can have people just hop on, but on YouTube, YouTube doesn't have that one yet. where you can have people come on. Unless I use the streaming software where it can bring people on. Which reminds me, now that you are talking about green salad, how was the njahi dish? It was quite nice, and I had some today. It was very, very nice. Very nice. It was just like black beans. Just like black beans. All right. So it looks like nobody has any questions. Everybody's fully trained on spirit guide communication. Okay. So just remember, okay, that okay, so just remember that you need to be aware, you need to be paying attention, and you need to respond. If your spirit guides are trying to talk to you need to be responding. You can't pretend like nothing was being said to you or nothing being communicated to you. It's important that you respond so that that communication can be completed. Make sure that you respond. A lot of times when we get into trouble, like I said at the beginning of this class, is because we're not responding. And then our spirit guides will then allow us to experience certain things to force us to respond. Also, remember the spirit guides speak in sensations and not in sentences. They speak in signs and symbols. Okay. And remember, you can email me at contact@tochi.us if you want to be part of our workshop, the altar building workshop, and or the spiritual fast and cleanse retreat. So just send an email. We'll send you information about how you can secure your seat for that. I want you to be on top of your spiritual practices. That's why I put out these workshops and retreats, and I should probably put out more. You know, I should put out more. Okay, but I'm trying my best. You need to be on top of your spiritual practices. Don't just be a consumer of content, be a performer of the content that you consume. Okay? Because that's where your spiritual power lies. For those who are members, remember that we are into guide work. Make sure you are attending your member classes because that's where you get guided on how to do certain things for your spiritual practice. So it's not just talking about it, but also getting guided. And then if you're an advanced member, we go straight to demo. So you do it for yourself. Okay. And a lot of times, what I do with my advanced students is what I do with my coaching students as well. And what I do with my coaching students is what I do with my retreat and workshop participants. It's demo. We demonstrate and show that it works. Okay. All righty. So thank you all for coming to class. We're thankful to our Creator, our guardian spirit, our ancestors, and our spirit guides, and the unknown masters for today's forbidden fruit. May it continue to yield much more plenteously in our lives. Ashe, Ise, Kamago, the Koza, the Sedi, Makwande, Aibobo, it is done, it is finished, it is complete. Yinho, Amen, Ma'at, Obrigado. Remember, if you need me for your consultations, spiritual consultations, divinations, spiritual counseling, dream interpretation, spiritual practice coaching. You can get me on my website, tochi.us or drtochi.com. Okay. Love three, thank you so much for the beautiful gifts. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. All right. Thank you for all the likes and all the support. I'm grateful to all of you who support my work through contributions, donations, memberships, subscriptions, through the gifts. I appreciate you. Okay. Please go forth and do what needs to be done. For those of you who've already registered for the workshop and the retreat, please check your emails. Emails started going out today with information that you need in advance. Okay, so make sure you check your emails for the information you need for the workshop and the retreats so that you can start getting your materials together, whatever you need to start having that ready. And remember that when we do our workshops and retreats, we start on time. We start on time because we have limited amount of time to get the work done. We start on time and we move. We don't stop and start rehashing for those who came late. We just keep on moving. Okay. All right. Love you all. Let me go have some njahi.